Folks, I think we need to mentally prepare. Lime and I heard the same clip from Albert Breer yesterday. It went, hey, boy, here's Albert Breer yesterday about Mike McDaniel.
Probably a coordinator. It's hard to get one your first year out, right? So I think Mike's a really good coach. After the way that all went down in Miami, my guess is, it'll be at least a year. But I could be wrong. All it takes is one, and Mike's capable of getting in the room and charming people, and, I'd be confident that he have a really good plan. I think he'll show some humility about what happened in Miami and fall on the sword and take some blame, which is always important, I think, for these second chance guys. So we'll see what happens. But I think it'll probably be another year or two before he gets one.
I promise you guys I will be open-minded. I know I'm setting this up to be the worst news ever when I said I'm getting a sneaky suspicion, and Lime is too. In the word, I'm going to be Steve Kornacki. I'm going to call it for Cleveland. I'm going to say Mike McDaniel is going to be the next Browns head coach. I want to know how people would react to it, because I asked people on social media, and I got to tell you, it was surprisingly split for a while of would they be excited, not excited, if Mike McDaniel were the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Now, that was a couple of days ago. Maybe some people, I think some people would change. I mean, there were a lot of votes. 57% said they would not be excited. I was surprised 42% said they would be excited.
That was higher.
From Mike McDaniel. And I think part of that
people are very split on all these candidates.
We do have a show on this station that seems to be very high on Mike McDaniel, correct? Is the afternoon drive pretty high on Mike McDaniel? I thought they were. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in their mouth. I'm being serious. Usually we're taking shots at each other, but I thought that they were pretty high on Mike McDaniel. I thought he was number 2 on their power rankings of guys that they wanted.
Yeah, I haven't heard chanting for Mike McDaniel, but yeah.
Well, we're the show that chants. I haven't heard them chant very much.
I've only heard them do a coaches they don't want list.
So this is how this is going to go. I think that this is a guy who has previous head coaching experience, and the operative phrase that Albert had used, and I want to hear you on this, obviously, Tone. I mean, Jesus. You have a guy who says he can charm, he can get in there and he can charm, and he'll be contrite on some of the things that he got wrong in the past. I think those are things that the Browns are going to want to hear. And this is going to be a guy who, I said, you want to scheme open run games, he can scheme open the run game. He knows offense very, very well. And again, guys, they think they are way closer than any of you guys think, and myself included. I think you're another couple of drafts at least. And then by that time, we're talking about the defense. But they think they're closer. They think there's gold in them there hills. And, yeah, you got Harold Fannin Jr., a couple of young guys there. I mean, maybe they are. But they think they're closer. They just need a fresh coat of paint on that offense. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to end up being the head coach. It could end up being a good thing. I can paint how it could be a disaster, but I want to hear you on this, Tom.
I know that we see him in the press conferences and him cracking jokes. The way he dresses and the blue blockers on the sideline in a rainstorm. Okay, all that, he's become kind of a caricature. I have a feeling that guy in the interview room knocks those kind of settings out of the park.
Yes.
I think he comes in, and I think he is a bit of a savant. I think he's someone, they all come in with their coach's binder, and I think he could answer. First of all, he's been doing press conferences for how many years?
He's a charming person. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, I don't.
He's a charming man.
I don't think guys really get charming from him.
I think you could be confusing Owen the press conference settings
with him.
Yeah, but I think that could work in an interview setting.
Used car salesman with him. Maybe new cars.
He's
definitely selling cars.
He had the Miami media eaten out of his hands the first 2 years he was there.
National media
loved him.
Yes, and maybe that's why I was a little down on him.
I'll say this, because Kevin was pretty consistent in he wasn't a jerk about it, but he wasn't going to give you anything. But because he was so consistent, I think he got more leeway than what Mike McDaniel did. The second they started losing, they're going, man, your pants don't go all the way to your ankles.
Yeah, we don't like this.
You're wearing sunglasses on the sidelines.
It's
dark outside.
You don't look like a football coach.
It wore very
your
thin.
Your sarcasm. You're doing metaculture. You're doing social media press conferences.
It wore thin very quickly. That's right. But the first couple of years, I mean, good God, it was they were fawning over Mike McDaniel.
Have Meredith find some Mike McDaniel. I'm being dead honest. Like some of his greatest hits at the press conferences, and I think you hear some of that, and I think people will side with Owen. They'll be like, "What is this? He's doing a comedy act." At the same time, I don't think he would do that in an interview setting. I think in the interview setting, he'll come off like the Ivy League, smart.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All-encompassing, knowledgeable.
I mean, there has to be something there. He got hired and then also kept that job for a while. It wasn't like he was 2 and out.
And I think he's I think he's an encyclopedia. I think he would. I think he'd dazzle in the interview setting, especially with once guys like that can be a chameleon. Depending on who they're talking to, and the minute Andrew Berry is there with his bona fides and Mike McDaniel with his, I think now there's an instant rapport for something like that.
He was here in 2014. Andrew was not. Obviously, Jimmy was. Obviously, JW was.
What year was it?
2014 when he was here as the wide receiver coach, because I was like, well, Andrew got here in 2016. He was with the Colts through 2015. And then he came here, became the VP of player personnel, came back, was the general manager in 2020 after he spent the time with the Eagles there. So there might be that, but I think that for a guy like Mike McDaniel, obviously a lot's changed in the last 12 years.
Sashi was there.
Sashi was there as well.
I bet there's familiarity. I mean, I just think there probably is.
I think there's something there, and I think that there will be a change in how obviously he's perceived, and I just think that this goes to it's not the greatest crop. There's guys who have not called plays. Like Grant Udinsky's a young guy. The first thing, and I told you, I think play calling's overrated. I don't think that a lot of owners would agree with me. I think they want to be wowed by what they see on the field.
I think he's one that could wow.
And he is a guy who's called plays, who's schemed open offenses,
who had a limited quarterback,
who's done some good things with him. And I think that he's going to be as this job goes, and I just told you the Steelers job opens up, and it's like, oh boy, now we're another whack down. It makes Mike McDaniel look better. It makes him look better. So if they announced Mike McDaniel as the head coach, how do you think fans would react? I think you'd get a lot more positivity than you think. I think you'd get some people turning around on you, going, you need to keep an open mind, because they're going to keep Jim Schwartz. I would say that you hired Mike McDaniel and you would keep Jim Schwartz. Now, I got to give a warning. I think that if things didn't go well at the very beginning, I think that you might have yourself a power struggle. Because I think that some of the guys who are veterans there will immediately go to Jim Schwartz instead of Mike McDaniel if things go poorly. But if things start out and say you're 3-3 at the beginning of the year and your offense can look a little better, and who knows who the quarterback is? Maybe Mac Jones or Malik Willis or Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson. Who the hell knows who it's going to be? One of those guys looked pretty passable, and okay, we're getting some things done here. And hey, we got the quarterback playing point guard just like they did in the first couple of years in Miami. Yeah, you could get some people along with that, and he's definitely going to be good in the press conferences, at least at the beginning. His act will wear thin if you lose football games. It will wear very, very, very thin.
I wonder if he can even come to his new job, wherever it is, and have an act at all. I wonder if he's learned from that. I wonder if that was just maybe some immaturity. I don't know. Some guys change, some guys don't. Some guys evolve.
What kind of vehicle does he drive in Northeast Ohio? It was a sports car in Miami. What does he drive here?
What was the story last year, at the end of the year, especially when everybody thought he was getting fired? They pulled off a win, and then he drove by the Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale, and he was trolling the opposing fans. Like, I mean, that stuff's great. Cleveland fans will love that when you're winning. You imagine
in his neighborhood, he said.
Yeah, he lived right around there, right?
Maybe we can get him a Pittsburgh started shirt. Run it all the way back. I want to know from you guys if they. You're getting the same feeling I am, aren't you? I mean, let's. So we're on the record. You got the same suspicion I do.
Yeah,
that's going to be Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, well, when Breer says that might need to be a coordinator there for another 2 years, I'm thinking, oh, so the Browns might think, why wait? Why wait till he's available right now? Mm-hmm. He's going to be a hot commodity in a year. Why not take him now?
Bingo. Good morning. I think Mike McDaniel is going to be the next head coach of the Browns, and so does Tone. 216-474-0092. Do you like that or hate that?
I wouldn't say.
You guys in or out?
I wouldn't say I definitively said Mike McDaniel is your next head coach.
Okay, now you're going to step off the ledge. Okay, well, fine. I'll stand out there by myself. I'm the one with the stones on the show all of a sudden.
I think what's going to happen, though, is as the time progresses, other teams start getting their coaches, and you start hearing more and more about some of the interviews that the Browns have lined up. I think you're going to be like, Hi, Mike McDaniel. He sounds better.
Well, that's where I was going to say I would feel more comfortable with Mike McDaniel than some of the names that I didn't know 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
Because at least it's a commodity that I know that I've seen have some offensive success.
I think fans are going to warm up to him. He's an offensive mind. I think that it's exactly what you guys just said. Is he interviewed the other day, and he had sat down with the Browns. They'll probably bring him back in some form or fashion. He'll talk again. There will be a lot of things. Yeah, I can work with Andrew Berry. Yes, obviously, Jim Schwartz is a tremendous defensive mind. The defense loves him. I want to work with him. He can be the head coach of the defense, and I'll be the head coach of the offense. It's going to be great. And he's going to be made the head coach of the Cleveland Browns because it's exactly what you said. And I think yesterday was part of the reason why he will be, is that the Steelers' job looks worse. He is not going to be the next head coach of the Steelers' job makes your job look worse. He's not going to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't think he's going to get one of those. I don't think he's going to get the Ravens job. I think he's going to get the Raiders job. And he gets a chance to be a head coach still and make head coach money. And I think he's going to end up being the Cleveland Browns head coach.
Are you saying that you want him to be the head coach?
Nope.
Okay. If he becomes the head coach, do you think there'll be any sustainable success?
Oh, I think there can. I mean, listen, I'm not saying he's a bad offensive mind. And I thought that they had quit on him in that game against the Browns earlier this year. Clearly, they didn't. They were 5-2 down the stretch after
they might have quit in that game. They didn't quit on the season.
Well, I really thought he was just going to get fired after that game because they looked listless and it was terrible. And by the fourth quarter, guys were walking around on that football team, and we were just beating the brakes off of them. And
they did not want to be here.
It was a therapeutic thing to see. My father was disgusted, but when's my father not disgusted? I'm his son. I just think he's going to be the head coach of the Browns. I think you could do worse if that's the case. But if they're going to celebrate in the afternoon, will they celebrate in the afternoon? Have we gotten confirmation that they really want Mike McDaniel? They may celebrate in the afternoon. I'm going to go, okay, let's see where this goes.
So if I told you Miami this year, offensively, 22nd out of 32 teams offensively, in first blush, you'd be like, that's not good. Why would you hire that coach? And then you consider, well, they're ahead of the Texans who made the playoffs. They're ahead of the Chargers who made the playoffs. Yeah, we were 31st.
If you're 22nd and you have better special teams, and it's hard to not have better special teams, and Andre Schmidt stays hitting field goals, right? That's a kicker, but I look at special teams differently, obviously, and I think you guys found that difference this year. If you have better special teams, you're a 7-8 win football team. And if you're a 7-8 win football team, Kevin's still here.
But you would have been vying for the playoffs until the final few weeks of the year.
And you heard Jimmy Haslam in the press conference. That's the difference. And you guys, I don't hear a lot of defense out of it, or I don't hear you guys yelling at me saying, because I think you guys believe I'm right about this, is they believe they're closer than we all do. And they just needed a upgrade on offense. And he is a former head coach, so he's been through it before, and maybe he can change it. And I don't think that I think he's going to come in and want to work with Jim Schwartz. My major concern, Jim Schwartz is a defensive guy. Jim Schwartz is 17 years older than him. Jim Schwartz is a strong-willed individual, because most defensive coordinators are. If things don't go very well, is Jim Schwartz going to turn into Buddy Ryan? Could we be hearing rumblings about fracture halfway through the year if they start off 3-6? If you're 3-6 with a 17-game schedule, you can. It's hard. You can get the nose up and get going. Will they be able to do that? Will there be a lack of trust?
I guess it all depends on quarterback play. They'll believe in a team, even at 3-6. They'll feel like, all right, if we're just having average quarterback play, we can get back in it if our defense just gets healthier and we do all the things we're supposed to do, maybe situationally do some things better. But if you're 3-6 and a quarterback play is 30, 31, 32,
so I want to know,
you know how that's going to end.
If they made Mike McDaniel the head coach, would you guys be satisfied with that? 216-474-0092, because I think it's going to be, I kind of want to do a trial run. I think it's probably going to be Mike McDaniel, and I kind of want to know what people think it's going to be. I really do.
I've got a little answer for you on the afternoon show.
Please go
This
right on
is
ahead.
their comments from 2 days ago about the possibility of hiring Mike McDaniel.
Okay.
This really wouldn't be that bad a hire, guys. Mike McDaniel's a really well thought of offensive mind. If you can keep Jim Schwartz, and I know we have the Albert Breer report piece, whatever we want to say, to get to, if you could keep Jim Schwartz and get Mike McDaniel, I'm sorry, that's about as good as it's going to get for you.
I think so too. I think the options that I've had and we've tried to present, I don't know why people are looking at McDaniel as if this is a bad thing. This is about it. If you're not landing Harbaugh, name me the better alternative.
Do you think that people would be more excited about this if Harbaugh just wasn't on the table?
For sure.
Has Harbaugh ruined every coaching search in America with his name?
So I say for sure, but maybe that was a little too premature with that.
That's where we're at. I can't disagree with the boys in the afternoon. You might be able to find a better... I think you could find a more exciting alternative for the fans. I'm serious. I think if you were to go, Grant Udinski is the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns, I think you'd get some people who we'd have to dump on the air.
Yeah.
And I think you'd get a lot of people going, you know what? This is outside the box. This is a young guy. This is an exciting guy.
I feel like our fans will hate it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that he would have to be a pretty dynamic speaker in the opening press conference. I think you'd win the opening press conference. I think you'd get some people lining up.
Yes.
I think you'd get a lot of people
win an opening press conference.
I think you'd get a lot of people who look at him as a pup and want to be supportive about it. Again, you would get some guys who are 60-something years old and go, I can't believe I'm wasting the rest of my life with this crap, and they'd be upset. But I think you'd get a little bit more support than you think. I think it'd be outside the box. I think it'd be exciting for some people. And I think that they would, and it could be a bigger disaster than Mike McDaniel. You get Mike McDaniel, I think some people are going to go, okay. I think they're going to think it's pretty tepid. And I think you might get some people going, yeah, we'll probably see you in a couple of years when we do this search again.
I'm just saying, if that news broke today that they hired, who is it again?
Mike McDaniel.
No,
Grant Udinski.
Grant Udinski. And you opened up the phone lines. I think there'd be some fans actually pine for Stefanski.
All right,
again.
let me get Frank and
as
Chardon
he's interviewing for other jobs.
Hey, Frank.
How's it going?
Hey, let me ask you this. All right, I want your first reaction. The Browns hire Grant Udinski. Frank and Chardon says what?
I don't know who he is.
The Browns hire Mike McDaniel. Frank and Chardon says what?
My biggest concern is the biggest problem with the Browns is that we have made an art form out of losing games. Most games in the NFL are not won, they're lost. And since 1999,
so is that
Browns
positive?
have made an art form.
Well, Frank, is that positive about him or is that negative about him? I want to know what you think if Mike McDaniel's named the next head coach of the Browns.
Is Mike McDaniel a culture-changing individual? Because it's everything. It's personnel decisions. It's coaching decisions. It's special teams. It's pre-snap penalties. It's everything that involves the Cleveland Browns that we lose games. We have to stop losing games before we can win games. And until we bring a person in that's going to make decisions that's best for an organization from top to bottom, and one guy's accountable, one guy is where the buck stops, that's what we need. We need somebody that's going to take over the organization and stop losing games. Plain and simple. We're not going to win anything until we stop losing.
All right, Frank, thank you very much for the call. That was Trent Dilfer on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Right hotline. You cannot lose games and win in the NFL. I tried to lead him to the water. I just want to, because I think it's going to end up being Mike McDaniel now. I think it's the most non-offensive name out of some of the names that might be out there for people.
Frank brings up a good point, though. Is he a culture changer? Do we need a culture change? Would you agree that we need a culture change?
I think he would be better in the locker room speeches.
Okay, the locker room speeches
but
are
that's
culture
not
changing.
That's
I think
not
there's
culture,
been times,
though, right?
That's performance.
But you wanted me to ask. I think that you can get guys. It depends. I mean, if you're going to be. You could hold people accountable.
You can watch 2 or 3 locker room speeches and go, okay, that's really him, or that's the performance that we're getting. And it felt like Kevin was giving you a performance every time. You look at a guy like Dan Campbell, And that you're seeing his heart being spilled out.
I think he was trying to give a performance, and I think you're right, but I also think Dan Campbell, outside of the speech, is going to hold people accountable.
Right.
And
that's why I believe the speech that's happening.
Exactly. Here. It's like the same thing. Like, yes, I may not like Kyle Shanahan. John Greco likes Kyle Shanahan. Why? Because what you see is what you get, and you can respect that. Bill Callahan could be a bear to play for, but he was brutally honest. And what you saw was what you got, and that's what made him successful with that Browns offensive, with just about every offensive line he's ever been around. Like, you had that. Now, I don't know how Mike McDaniel's going to be if he's just performing for the cameras. We saw a guy perform for the cameras once, and that's what led to his downfall, and that was Hugh Jackson.
And that's what I'm afraid of with Mike McDaniel, and that's why I brought up the stuff in the last segment, because it feels like, at least when he's on the podium, he's performing for the cameras.
True, but I want to know, and Nathan might be able to give us some insight on this because Nathan knew him pretty well. I only ran into him a few times in 2014. Nathan knew him pretty well. I could ask Nathan about him on Friday because and things change over the course of 12 years, for crying out loud. But Nathan knew him way back when. I think there might be some genuine qualities there to it. But again, if it goes into a bad territory the way we think it could, I don't know how Jim's going to react. Here you got Jim Schwartz, 59-year-old, emotional defensive coordinator, gets guys to play with their hearts on their sleeves, very tough, very strong, and here you got Mr. Cool Mike McDaniel, and that's all well and good until they kick off and things start going poorly for you.
Now
how are you going to react to that?
Yeah, it's funny. In the 4 years, he went 35-33. He made the playoffs twice. That first year in the playoffs, he didn't have his starting quarterback. I think it was Skylar Thompson.
Former K-State Wildcat.
Diggins.
Skylar Diggins. Yeah, that was their quarterback for a game against the Buffalo Bills. I thought
you said Biggins at first. I was like, what?
That's Leroy Biggums.
Like, so overall, if I informed the average Browns fan, hey, did you know that he actually has an above 500 record in 4 years? Who is his quarterback? Like, I think that almost makes him look better, right?
Yeah. 216-474-0092. Would you be mad if it ended up being Mike McDaniel?